Yo, how y'all doing? This is with Just the Messengers podcast. Of course, I'm Mo.
I am Mike.
We got a very special episode for you guys today. We're reporting live from the campaign headquarters of former Chief of Police of North Charleston. We got Mr. Reggie Burgess with us today. How you doing?
I'm blessed, man. Thank you, Mike and Moe, for allowing me to be on this podcast.
No problem,
Thank
man.
you
Anytime.
for giving us this opportunity. Yes. Very special. So, how you been doing lately? This new venture.
I've been doing real good. It's just a different schedule that I have to work with now. I mean, when I was a former chief of police, now mayoral candidate, when you're in law enforcement, you have a structured schedule, 8 in the morning to whatever time I come on at night. Now it's different because I have to really get out a little bit more to different meetings. I would normally, in my former profession, have community meetings, and when folks come to City Hall or I go out in the community, but now everything is structured on businesses, developers, communities, just the regular everyday walk of life people that just want to request your time, and you got to give people their time.
Got you.
Was this something that you always saw for yourself when you was chief of police or just in law enforcement period? Was this always something that you saw on your career path?
Not really. I really saw when I got into law enforcement in 1989, I just really wanted to make a change in my community. I saw my community suffering from social decay. And I just felt like when I was in college, every year I came back, so man, what can I do to improve the conditions? And I felt that getting to the government, direct government here in the city would be a better impact than trying to work for SLED or some other, the FBI. So that's why I got into law enforcement, and you're right. It's like when you matriculate through life, you learn along the way. You realize that you have more talents than you thought you had.
Right.
And so in 2020, 21, that's when I really said to myself, I said, man, I want to do something in the electric area. So I just decided to actually put my hat in the race. And I'm happy that I did it. Really am.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So you being born and raised in North Charleston, correct?
Oh, born and raised here and love it. And there's no other city in the world that I love like I love North Charleston.
Okay, so just talk about like your upbringing in North Charleston. It would also kind of push you into your role, into getting into police and, eventually to this venture.
Yeah, when you grow up, when I grew up in the neighborhoods I did, I'm from Union Heights. I lived on a place called Daniel Jenkins Projects, which is over at the old Baker Hospital site. And then for like 6 or 7 months, and then we moved into the George Degree, which is Horizon Village right now. And then we end up on Liberty Hill. My mom's from Union Heights, my father's from Liberty Hill. And living in those neighborhoods, those communities, I mean, we were close-knit. We cared for one another. We loved one another. We could eat at anybody's house. And every family looked out for you. So I grew up with a family atmosphere in all those communities. But like I said, when you're looking at the conditions of some of the communities now, you should say to yourself, what can I do? What part can I take to improve those conditions? It may not go back when I was growing up, but you want to work on that. So I went to school here. I played all sports right here in North Charleston. I attended church here in North Charleston. I did everything possibly that you could imagine as a young person would at the time in North Charleston. My wife, she's from Liberty Hill. My mother's, like I said, from Union Heights. My dad from Liberty Hill. But all my family's from different areas in North Charleston, Ackerby and Dorchester Road and Liberty Park area. I got family all over the place. So I just really wanted to really stay home. When I was in college, I've always thought about helping and reaching back. But I was told by a professor that I should go back. And because it's more impactful when you go back.
Got you. So just being around North Charleston, you probably seen all the transitions, like the highs, the lows, and just basically speak to like, how do you think it has shifted over this, this last probably 20, 30 years from where it is now, and where do you see it going?
That's a good question. I can remember when you got to aviation and rivers, everything above that, all the way up to Ashley Phosphate, was dirt road. I remember these places.
Yeah, that's a while ago.
Yeah, it's a while ago.
It's a while back.
I remember where City Hall is at, that was the first mall in North Charleston. It was called
Gaslight.
No, it wasn't Gaslight. This Gaslight. No, it was called Charlestown Square.
Oh, okay.
The name's still there.
I heard that.
The name is still there.
Oh, it's still there?
It's still there. But you look when you go to City Hall, you look on the marquee. It says Charlestown Square. That was the first mall we had in North Charleston. Now the strange thing about it, I remembered it being wooded area before it became a mall. You know, I remember that.
Okay.
So I go back a long way. I mean, I'm 58 years old, so I go back a long way. But I saw how our city was. It was called the North area. That's what North Charleston was called, the North area. Yep, we were. My address was 372 Nesbitt Avenue in the North area. Then when the first mayor came, Mayor Bowen, he got with the business community and saw that we were such a great demand for the economy. And he said, let's make a city. So he got with the business community. He worked for the government, North Charleston, City of North Charleston, and got with the community. They bought into it. Then we became the City of North Charleston in 1972, 73. Our zip codes changed from 3 to 4. You know, so everything has changed around that. And when you see it, I mean, we had 5 high schools in North Charleston. Barnes-Wilson, which is the school I attended, North Charleston High, Garrett High, Stall High, and Shakur High. Now you said Shakur is now military magnet.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, every school there, those 5 schools I mentioned, was in North Charleston. They all were either 7, 3A, or 8, 3A. So we battled each other along the way. But what I realized about those schools, most all those schools in some form or fashion either had state championships, either in basketball, track, or football, or at least got there. So we have a rich tradition in North Charleston. Then you have to look at how diverse our city is. We have some pockets where the culture may be African American, and some pockets where the culture may be Caucasian. Then you have a mixed pocket. Now we have a huge Hispanic Latino area, and you have a lot of Asian folks now. I mean, I'm not talking about Asian just like probably Chinese or Japanese. I'm talking about Indians, from India.
Okay,
so you have a whole lot of people. This city is very, very, very awesome when it comes to diversity. It's an awesome, diverse city.
It seems like you got a real good experience with community and just overall, like I said, township and community. How do you plan on using that experience when you become mayor of North Charleston?
Well, when you are here working, in the 34 years I've worked in the city of North Charleston, but prior to me becoming a police officer, looking at how the police department, when I was a young kid, how the African American community looked at it, how the interactions were. And I mean, you can look at any city in America, you have always had issues with law enforcement, has always had issues with the African American community and vice versa. And it's the truth. So what do we do, or what do I do, and with my leadership when I was the chief of police, to work on those issues? Well, work on those issues is, first of all, acknowledging that you have issues.
Right.
And then once you acknowledge it, then you bring in people that can help you to heal internally. Because if you don't heal the internal wound, you cannot heal externally.
Right.
So I looked at that, and when I actually came up the ranks, I walked in that door as a regular patrolman in 1989. My wife drove me to City Hall, and she dropped me off, and she went to work, and I walked in there, and I filled the application out. And I probably like a week in a day, they interviewed me, did everything, and hired me. And that day, I said that what I would do is I would actually share my knowledge of being the culture I am, African American, with the culture that's law enforcement, so they would understand and have a better dealing with African Americans, because I'm there to kind of give them some insight of how we feel when law enforcement is present. And so I was always doing it, and people would always come up to me and ask me questions. Well, hey, Reg, this happened. What should I do? And I would give them information, but they can tell you at City Hall, in my former position as chief or cop, that I've always kept it real with them. I always tried to get them to understand where we as African Americans were coming from. We just simply, as African Americans, want to be treated like everybody else.
That's a fact.
That's the basis of it all.
That's the basis of it all, yeah.
That's all. And when you look at the other side, on the Caucasian side, especially with a Caucasian officer, he automatically don't want you as African American to feel like he's stereotyping you. Most of them not. They're doing their jobs, but then when the two meet, sometimes things don't work out. So that's why you have to always work on the issues internally to try to make sure when you get to that point that you know how to talk to a young person, you know how to talk to a older person, you know how to listen before you actually think that this is how it is.
Communication.
Yeah,
Yes,
right. So
communication, that's right.
off the heels of that, I know we had a lot of traumatic experiences in the city of North Charleston, together. 2015, of course, 2017, Walter Scott, Emmanuel 9. How were you able as a leader to keep your unit tight knit, but also have everybody understand, okay, we're experiencing this in person. This is not something we see in another state or another country. We're experiencing this. How you as a police chief leader was able to keep your unit tight knit?
Man, we had in 2006 and 7, we were ranked. The city of North Charleston was ranked number 7 in the nation for violent crime. We were in between Baltimore, Philadelphia, Chicago, and it was embarrassing. At that time, during that year, if you look at our population, it was a whole lot smaller then. But when you take about 25 homicides and put it into like 60,000, 70,000 people, that's bad math.
Yeah.
So that's why we were ranked that high. So we actually got a group together called a Community and Police Panel. We actually reached out to the ministers like from Mount Moriah, Royal Baptist Church, Charity, Reverend Vanderbilt Evans off of Reynolds Avenue, the minister at St. Matthews. We reached out to so many leaders in the community and regular leaders, civil rights people from the NAACP, National Action Network, Racial Justice was there, all kinds of civil rights leaders, and we said to them, we need your help. Law enforcement can't do it by itself. And when they think they can, that's when mistakes occur. So we reached out to those entities, and we got so much good feedback from the community on how we can actually help patrol better, police efficiently, and truly be a public servant. And we actually brought the crime down to 5 homicides, working with them. But as I say, some of our techniques at the time was whenever we had a shooting in the community, we would saturate the community. Our main goal was to have officers in that neighborhood to calm it down, to let them know no other shootings going to occur. But as I said, if you don't give people clear, defined directions, they will go out and find their own directions. And we lacked in doing that. When we were doing that, every year we were bringing the crime down. But I found out that we were really causing more issues with the community when it came to relationships. And I'll say this to you. Since I've been a police officer, the majority of people culturally that complain on police activity, and it's probably around the country, are African Americans. So they would come to City Hall and complain. So I would always say, what can we do to lessen those complaints? What can we do at the initial stop? What can we do in initial meeting at the home? What can we do when we see them in the community and we have a hot call? What can we do to actually decrease bad activity, bad association? Therefore, we have less complaints. And at the time, I was a deputy chief. So I just kind of really worked on some policies and tried to kind of change some things. Then I became an assistant chief in 2013. And that was giving me an opportunity now to ratchet up. But we still were practicing the same thing about saturation of the community. April 4th, 2015, right across there, that's where Walter Scott lost his life. I'll never forget that date, just like I would never forget later on that year, Emmanuel 9. And that's when I realized that some of our so-called deployments or tactics needed to be changed and needed to be revamped, but it needed to have more inclusive conversation with community people, young people, people who were my age, people who were older, get those people involved and tell us what are your expectations of law enforcement. Now, homicides in this city, every year since I've been a cop, the majority of homicides in this city are related to African Americans, victims, and African Americans are the suspects. The Part 9 violent crimes, from homicide all the way down to shooting and dwellings. Now I can go through all of arsons, all of the crimes, the Part 9 crimes. African Americans are victimized in this city more than anybody every year. But I don't like victimization at all. I don't hate any human being. I mean, just don't really, kick it with
I
them.
definitely understand. Yeah.
But I don't hate anybody because I'm a God-fearing man. But I hate victimization. I hate when you take advantage of a person. I don't like it. So what I'm saying to you, that turns into who are the suspects that perpetrate the victimization, and most of them are African Americans. So when we were going through that situation with the Walter Scott, we learned so much. And in learning so much, we started to really understand ourselves and what our purpose were. And when 2019 came, I asked the mayor to let us have a racial bias audit performed in our police department, because I wanted to be able to see what our weaknesses were and what our strengths were. And then when we found out after the recommendations came in, we would look at the recommendations, get a committee together made up of all civil rights people and community leaders with law enforcement. And then what we would do is we would actually look at those weaknesses and become stronger, because we acknowledge them and say, hey, how can we do something better? Look at the best practices throughout the nation. Mm-hmm. Look at the evidence-based conversations that are being had. Implement those into North Charleston with that committee, and then turn this thing around. And that's what we were doing. We did it. We're still doing it. We still have a long way to go, but at least we acknowledge it.
It'll never go away, but at least get it down. Yeah.
Yes.
Drew, you had something?
So what was the feedback from your team essentially when you implemented those changes?
Wow, of course. Now, in any profession, when you actually going outside the norm, sometimes you can get resistance. Even me, when folks bring me different type of strategies or initiatives, I don't jump into it. I have to really read it, get an understanding of it, and then look at my area, look at the city and say, oh, can we do it? And most things we can do. We have to tweak it a little bit.
So about efficiency.
Yeah. So what we did, basically, we just, I led from the top. I brought in unconscious bias-based training, because we all human beings have biases. We may not want to admit it, but we all have biases. Mm-hmm. So, like I said earlier, acknowledging that you have biases, now we can talk about those biases. We brought that training in for the whole department. Then we brought in fair and impartial police training. When you're into a neighborhood that apparently may be kind of, social decay, because a lot of corporate services come in, a lot of issues happening, still yet, you should treat that person that lives in that challenged neighborhood like you would treat somebody that live in an affluent neighborhood. Same mindset, same principle. Whatever happens in that interaction, if it goes negative, you're the police. You know the law. You know how to handle it. But go in there with the same mindset that serve people in the same manner. And that's fair and partial policing. And then we brought the creme de la creme. The YWCA, I met with them, and I think it was 2019-20. We sat down, and they told me about the racial equity training. And I read the synopsis of it, and I was like, wow, I like that. And so I went to my department, and I said, hey, we're going to have racial equity training for all of the officers doing the whole entire year, because I want to reinforce the one issue that we had was our relationship with the African American community. I want to reinforce how we can continue to work with them, and I really believe that the men and women they learn a whole lot from that. So that's a good question. I mean, you don't try not to force people into situations because you won't get them to buy into it. Try to find ways. Try to
Common ground.
Common ground.
Yeah, common ground. And once you get that common ground, like you guys said, now you can layer on some of the things that you always want to talk about and want to really conversate about. Is that uncomfortable conversation? That's what we did. As a matter of fact,
Some conversations are uncomfortable. They are needed.
Yeah, and we did that. That's when we started going to like churches and going to community centers, and we would get the young people in there because the young people from the high schools, they would tell you, man, they're like, man, you know why? Every time I go out, somebody stop me, or I'm walking down the street. So what you do, you listen to them, you let them tell us, what happened to them, and we as officers would tell them exactly what we were doing, and then the officers would tell them, man, listen, I don't think that you should have been stopped, or if you were stopped, then it shouldn't have been in that manner. Or the officers would basically flip the whole role. They would put themselves in a position. We would get a chair and let two civilians make a traffic stop on us. And we would actually the officer would raise cane and say, man, you racist, this and that. And you can see the civilians, they're acting as police officers, give them a little walkie-talkie. And they're like, well, I need your license, sir. No, man, we would just raise cane with them. And then we'll cut it. Once we cut it, I'll ask them, the two civilians, man, how you feel? Man, I want to take him to jail. So we reversed the role. That's the uncomfortable conversation.
It's a learning moment too.
Yes,
though.
yeah, it
You gotta
is.
put yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Yeah, they love it. They love it because they're like, wow. And I've seen young people who actually on video who actually experienced that. And when officers stop them, they'll be talking. Say, man, I went to training one time, and man, I was at 100, and I was the cop. He said, you was a cop, and he told him who it was. He said, Chief Burgess. Oh, okay. So what that did, that helped those young people to understand. And I say this to my son and my daughter and to y'all. You cannot win an argument with a police officer at a traffic stop. You can't.
Gotcha.
You can't because he is stopping you lawfully. And when he's stopping you lawfully, the more you get upset and you get sometimes indignant, then it raises his mind to think that there's something else going on in the car. Therefore, you're detained longer. Therefore, he may try to search your car. Things go up. So always, if anything, if the officer goes 100, you stay in control. Always. Michelle Obama said, when anybody goes low, you go high. You stay in control at all times.
Gotcha.
I know we talked about the origins of it went from town of North Charleston to city of North Charleston, and there's been a lot of economic growth, and even still now it's still growing. How do we use those resources to impact the communities?
Wow, we are the most economic booming city in the state. We are the epicenter. We are the engine that runs the state when you talk about the economy. For 30 years, city of North Charleston has actually been the number one retail city in the state. I mean, we made $8.2 billion at the end of 21. It's everything you need here or need to buy or shop is here. It's in North Charleston, and not to mention all the factories and the new manufacturer places around here. And if you guys don't know, the city of North Charleston is the only city in the world that builds high-end airplanes, which is Boeing, and high-end cars, Mercedes. The only city that has those two entities
at the
within
same time.
Same time. So all the things we have in the city of North Charleston, bring folks into the city of North Charleston. But what we are looking at as a mayor, I'm looking at all of our positive things with our economy, continuing looking at growth in a responsible manner, working with the small business as well as the large businesses. I can imagine right here on Rivers Avenue in Remount Road, if you go down to Morrison Drive, I believe, when you go downtown, you go on Meeting, you make a left, and Morrison Drive runs to East Bay. You look at Morrison Drive now. Before you were there like 2 or 3 years, it looked like, a dust bowl. Like nothing was around it. You look at all the eateries there. Look at all the manufacturers. Look at the condominiums there. I could imagine Rivers Avenue here becoming that type where big businesses, they invest and they bring in the small businesses to actually sustain the bigger businesses. That's when Boeing came here, Mercedes came here. They're a big business, but the majority of businesses that came to support them is tremendous.
Yeah, Bowen has a lot of support.
Yes, they do. So I imagine that happened here in North Charleston, and being a mayor, that's my mind. My mind is how our city can continue to grow, and then once we can get those small businesses to connect with the bigger businesses, they're going to flourish. The taxes that come from that is going to help not only improve our communities, but heal the ones that we need to work on the greatest. And that's what I'm looking at as mayor. I'm looking at every citizen in the city of North Charleston should have an equal and fair opportunity to recreation, entertainment, and employment. I mean, look at this city. We could go everywhere in the city. There should be a nice place for recreation, nice place for entertainment, and employment is vast. We have it now, but we're at a point now that we can actually lift it up a whole lot more. When our businesses started working with the mayor, the first mayor, Mayor Bowen, that's when our city became, our north area became a city. We continue to work the government, work with the businesses, and when they work with the businesses, when the businesses prosper with the government, our communities are uplifted. That's how it works. When they work together, our communities get the best of things.
Got you.
What is one of the biggest challenges you see with becoming mayor?
Biggest challenges, well, there's a lot of challenges, but I think one of the biggest ones for me is really having a sustained drive or goal within the whole city about how we're going to actually improve the conditions of the neighborhoods that are challenging. Mm-hmm. Because my central themes, my platform, the 3 pillars I have is public safety. You've got to feel safe in your home, in your neighborhood, and as you travel through your city. That's a must. The second is, develop and improve better infrastructure. The highways and byways, we need to work with the state and to improve them and widen them because we have so much traffic flowing through our city.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people moving.
Moving. But not only that, we need to work on that's important. We've actually looked at the mass transit. We have to work on mass transit. There's a good program, but we have to look at that mass transit initiative, and also say to the mass transit initiative, it's a great idea, but take in consideration all the areas that are congested. Now they have a ride share parking spot up at Otranto and Rivers. That's great. Why? Because when people flow out of Somerville and Goose Creek coming through North Charleston, things can get hectic there. So we can take a lot of that volume of traffic off of Rivers Avenue, dump it into those parking lots, park, and then you can get into mass transit. So I believe that the mass transit approach is great because I went to college in Baltimore. They have the MARTA system. But look at all the congested areas in around city of North Charleston, and that's where you should have a ride share. Because if you dump that traffic off the road and get it mass transit, you would have all that traffic accidents, injuries, congestion. Yeah. Also, with my platform, when it comes to infrastructure, if we are looking at improving conditions in the challenged neighborhoods, we need to actually better improve these community centers, better improve the neighborhoods there. And we can work at that as a city. We really can. Because some of these buildings that are called community centers were built in the 70s and 80s. Some neighborhoods don't even have a place for after-school program. We got a kid, Raphael Parks. He lives in the 10 Mile. He has a hashtag free lunch program. Now, you sit back and you say, well, why did he call that? Because when he grew up, his grandmother, she ran the program. But when he went there, that's when he got the love and understanding and the camaraderie with people who he had never met before that live in the same 10 Mile area. But see, he not only provides you a lunch, he gets you to talk about social-emotional issues. He gets to talk to you about conflict resolution. He talks to you about improving your self-efficacy, your self-esteem. Hey, you are somebody.
That matters a lot to a lot of young, a lot of young ones. They don't have that.
Exactly, because it combats trauma. See, it combats trauma. And then the third pillar is quality of life. But if you working on public safety and you working with your infrastructure, especially in your neighborhoods, your quality of life will
It's a trickle
improve.
down.
It will
Trickle-down
improve,
effect,
you know.
yes.
And then the ultimate goal that I speak to some of the businesses that they love being here, but they're like, gee, we got to work on the crime. When you work on those three entities, crime will drop. It won't go away, but it will decrease. Yes.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you kind of do to like kind of keep a balance in your life as far as like the political versus your personal life?
Well,
Just so you can just like, stay grounded.
Oh yeah, when I do my political thing, it's 100%. Hard charging it, going at it. It's almost like when I was playing sports, man. Just hey, I'm working hard. I'm involved. But when I'm with my family, I've always told officers and their families when I hire them, take them away from law enforcement while they're home. Get them away from it. Look at soap operas. Look at westerns. Do whatever you got to do. Get away from it.
Don't bring it home.
Yeah, don't bring it home. So that's what I do. I try to get away. When I get home, my wife can tell you, man, we get our meal, we talk and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'll go to my little man cave area.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is slash the woman cave because she really run that cave.
You gotta co-op this.
Yeah.
sometime.
Got to go out sometime.
Yeah, you do. And man, we look at movies or Netflix,
Yeah.
or we just talk. And my wife is she's quiet, but she's very a generous person. She'll let's go out to a nice little restaurant, or just go riding someplace, and or go see some family, and that's what we do. And that's where I get away from all of it. So I have that balance. That balance helps me a whole lot to really, really fly away somewhat, while I'm, just sitting down. Yes.
Got you.
Quick question. So as far as like your go-to typical type of movies as you're relaxing, what's your go-to?
Wow, man. I love the old movies now. I love the old movies. I love all. I mean, if you look at the actors, Sidney Poitier and Denzel are my number one
Legends.
actors, right? And Gregory Peck and I can't think of this guy's name. It'll come to me, but they are right there, the tier right below those guys. Now, my ultimate movie, I love westerns. I love epics. I like big epics. I love Christian movies. I watch Ten Commandments and anything to do with the Lord. I watch it all day long. But when I'm really myself, man, you put on Shaft 1971. My wife can tell you. Boy,
Shaft.
Hey, yes, sir, man. Hey, I watched John Shaft, and see, I always looked at Shaft as the person in the community that you like. You ever remember looking at Crooklyn, the movie Crooklyn?
I've seen it. Yes.
And when you saw the guy Vic, the military guy, walked up the step, and them guys walked inside, I said, "That's Vic, that's Vic, that's Vic. Hey, Vic, what's up?" But he was giving all the young guys love. When he was getting ready to walk in there, the other guy said, "That's Vic." And when he said it, that's how I felt with Shaft. It's like, this guy is the guy that we all want to be like.
He the hero.
Yeah, he was, because he knew how to deal with law enforcement. He knew what he can get from law enforcement to help his community. And then he actually knew exactly how to deal with his community, even in the good and the bad on both sides. He knew how to deal with both of them, but he was trying to do right by his community. That's what he was trying. He was saying, if any problems in here, we got to get rid of the problems. Now, we can work it out. You two guys can sit down and talk it out, but we need to get this thing, stamped out. So, yeah, if anything I want to look at that I would never, I don't care how many times I look at Shaft. I got the CD and everything. I can flip it on. Man, hey, man, when Isaac Hayes start rolling that thing, man, who's the man?
Yeah. So even with that, like hip hop just hit its 50th year.
Yeah.
Just hit its 50th year.
Yes.
So it don't gotta necessarily be hip hop, but how is that as far as like your likes in music, like your kind of your go-tos, even when you came up until now?
I love it, man. I love music. I'm a DJ on the side. My handle is DJ 911.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, man.
I like
Yeah.
that handle. That's different.
That's my
DJ
thing, man.
911.
Hey, if you need me, call me. You know what I'm saying?
He got the turntables and all.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
man, I got my system. I got a Pioneer system. I got speakers. I got everything, man. Lights, everything. Music really, really took me to another place. And like I was saying to some folks before, when rap came out, it was Run DMC and it was Treacherous 3 and it was you know, the Furious Five and Grandmaster Flash, and you had so many that came out. You had a young girl who did Heartbeat, and I mean everything was coming out in LL, and I listened to everything they said, and I really enjoyed it because they were talking about the same things that we were living in our communities, and hip hop in the 50 years, I love it. Now I don't care about people being negative toward people at all. I just feel that, you know, we got to love on people, but I do love, like, I was a T.I. guy too, because I'm listening to T.I. I was like, he's sitting on the porch, man, in Georgia. I'm sitting on the porch in North Charleston, man.
Yeah, you relate to that.
Yeah, I can relate to the stuff. Like, man, I can understand it, man. And I've always, you know, liked what he was talking about and like what he saw. And then I saw him in movies and things. And I said, yeah, same as Ice Cube. You know, I saw him when I watched the movie that they had, which is an awesome movie. Didn't know that Eazy-E was that smart, what he wanted to do. But I look at these guys and say, man, I remember when you want to act in Hollywood, you had to go to acting school. You had to. I mean, you hear everybody say, man, I had to go to acting school. Man, those guys don't go to acting school. They act because it's a normal thing to them. So all you have to do is give them a script. They can go ahead and knock it out. So when I saw hip hop and all the females and, you know, that came through, and you know, Queen Latifah and all those people, I saw it and I learned so much from it. And I love hip hop. I love music generally, and I really understand it more than anything. But it just really, really gave me an opportunity to look into myself. Like I said, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the Temptations are my number one group.
Legendary.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I play them all day long. But not only play them, I know the history behind those groups. You know, what was David Ruffin dealing with? You know, how Maurice White, you know, got MS and he died from it. You know, all these things I learned about these individuals because we sometimes look at entertainers as different than us, but they're not. They're human beings. They have issues just like we have. So I love music, man. Music is, like I said, God created music. I just can't sing, but I mean, I try. Yeah, I love it, man. Music really helped me to see the world as it is. Yes, it really has.
Take us back to your HBCU days. I know you went to Morgan State and you actually played football there. Like, what was that experience like for you? Like, you know, going around the Baltimore area, and, you know, how did that impact you?
Yeah, when I decided to go to Morgan State, I knew I wanted to go there. I had about 3 other homeboys that I played Little League in high school with on the same teams, and we all decided to stay together. But with me, I just really went up there because I wanted to keep balling. Be honest with you, and hopefully kids can listen to this and understand. I wasn't no academician, man. I wasn't. I struggled, but I got my lesson to get that scholarship. But what I realized, all those years of running and jumping and catching and running track and long jumping, all that was what the talent God gave me to get to that education. Because education that's the way that we can actually turn things around. You know, that education provides us those opportunities that you just simply can't get without it. So I realized that. So going to Morgan State was a joy for me because it got me out of South Carolina. It got me away from my mother and my father. It made me become a man. And when you were up there in Maryland, and at the time in '84, when I went there, believe it or not, they had 1.2 million people up in the Baltimore area. And I mean, I'm coming from a 30 to 40,000 population here.
That's a big change.
Yeah, it was. Man, I brought down here the first in '84, the first Nike patent leather shoes. My friend, he had the patent leather snakeskin Adidas. I mean, everything we had got up there in the Maryland, D.C. area wasn't even down here. There wasn't any cell telephones. There weren't any fax machines. There weren't any, YouTube, none of that stuff. So everything we brought off of 95 back down here, people were like, whoa, where you get those from? We brought everything back. So being up there, it helped us a whole lot. It's also, too, having, like I said, being up in Maryland and coming home, I understood how life really was when you are a grown person. With my upbringing, having a mother and a father and 2 brothers, I mean, we were doing things and we were making differences. But man, when you were in a college campus, especially at HBCU, you got all the fraternities and the sororities. I mean, doing their thing. And see, back then, they were being pledged above ground. Have you ever seen the movie School Days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See how they did everything above ground?
Yeah.
That's how it was. I mean, my wife, she's a Delta. So everything, and I'm a Mega, everything was done, it was done above ground. Everything you saw, the fraternities, sororities went to, you actually saw it. Now it's different. So that life, not only, because when you live in the African-American community, your parents give you your history. Your grandparents tell you your history. Your great-grand tell you your history. But when you are at a HBCU, you really understand, how far we have come as a people, and you really appreciate it. You really, really love it. Yeah. So yeah, I think the HBCU experience really, really gave me a tremendous uplift of life, and I appreciate it.
What do you think about just your time spent in college transitioning into police force? Because you said your vision was basically, playing football.
Yeah.
So that moment that you switched into doing that, what was that moment for you like?
Oh wow! Like I was saying, I was my whole dream wasn't a goal, but my dream. That's why I'll tell young people, goals are attainable. Dreams are good, but you have to look at goals, because goals you can work at. So my dream was to play on Fridays. I did that in high school. To play on Saturdays, I did that in college. And the ultimate dream was to play on Sundays. That's NFL. That didn't come to light. I got signed as a free agent with the Toronto Argonauts, but I got cut, so that was it.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you going to do, Reggie Burgess? What are you going to do? You were raised to be a man about things. You were raised to actually work on your life as a human being. And so what I did was, basically, I kicked it in gear. I said, hey, I always wanted to improve the conditions that I saw in my community, which was under social decay. I want to improve those conditions. So that's why I jumped into law enforcement, because I saw that what was going on in my community, law enforcement could help a whole lot better
Facts.
to improve those conditions. And that's why I jumped in law enforcement. Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Well, you got something?
Yeah, you there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you say you played wide receiver at Morgan State, right?
Yes, sir.
So what kind of 40 time you getting?
Well,
I had to ask. I gotta ask.
I mean, growing up here, just like you guys, this is a very competitive area. The Tri-County area is very competitive. One day you can go play against Burke High School, which I played against Burke. There were 3 schools downtown when I was coming up. We're 4. There was Bishop Bingham High School was downtown.
That was downtown at one point?
Yes, Bishop Bingham was downtown.
Man, that's crazy.
On
I didn't know.
Calhoun.
where was Bishop at?
Right, with the College of Charleston, when you're in Calhoun, as you're going toward, let's say you're going toward West Ashley, on the left-hand side, that's where Bishop Bingham started, right before you get to MUSC.
Oh,
Bishop Bingham was
I
right
didn't even know that.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't.
College
I
of
never
Charleston
knew
took it over now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Bishop Bingham was right there. Then you had C.A. Brown. That was a school.
My
Courtesy,
grandparents went to see it.
Yes. Which was a tough school, especially basketball. Then you had Charleston High, which is right off of Rutledge.
Okay.
Rutledge and Calhoun. And then you had Burke. So you had, in those 3 schools, out of the 4 schools, Bishop Bingham was, Caucasian, and the other 3 schools were African Americans. So City of Charleston had a big African American population down there with those 3 schools. So we would go down there and play against Burke and C.A. Brown. Charleston High, they didn't have a football team when I played, because the population had gone down so much. They had a good basketball team. And man, we would go down there and just wax Burke. I mean, they were like our second homecoming. We just beat Burke and C.A. Brown. And
Man,
I tell
Drew?
Y'all had real estate up in Burke.
I got real estate up there.
Oh man, yes sir. But I tell you, this is how serious them schools were, though.
Yeah.
This is how serious football. Even though they were like the walkovers in football, they had awesome basketball teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We couldn't
That's
touch them on
historical,
basketball.
yeah.
You couldn't touch C.A. Brown and Burke on basketball. But football, this is how tough it was. We would leave Barnes Wilson, which was located on Liberty Hill. If you know where the Academic Magnet School of Arts at, that's where Barnes Wilson High School is at. That's our campus. We would leave there, go up Lackawanna, make a right go on Mixon, make a right on East Montague. Before we left our campus, when we get ready to play Burgess here, Brown, the highway patrol said, fellas, put your helmets on. On the bus, we had our helmets on. We rode all the way down there, downtown to Stony Field with our helmets on.
Stony Field.
through the downtown area and to the school, to the stadium. We were told not to take our helmets off. We played with our helmets all night long, and we had our helmets on going back. Why? Because Burke, C. Brown, as well as my high school, we always would break buses. We would. They would. I don't care if we win or lost. It was always that. That's what we did, and that was wrong. But it was kind of like an inherited thing. That's how it happened. The only time you didn't have anybody to break buses, basketball. Because there was no need for us to break their bus because they were going to beat us anyway. Yeah. See, Brown and Burke, man, they came, they leveled everything up, man. So, like I said, this area, growing up, seeing all the talent in this area, it made me work hard every day. I was told by a Little League coach, Coach Earl James. He said, son, you're going to go to the next level. That's what he told me. And I had David Meggett, who played Little League with me, high school with me, in college. He got drafted in the 5th round by the Giants, played 10 years in the NFL. All Madden team. He was at one time the 3rd strongest player, and he was a running back. This dude could do any and everything. I seen him run a 4.26 40 without even breathing. And here I am. I'm growing up with this guy on Liberty Hill. Mm-hmm. Paul Pendergrass, Brent Carter. All these guys were super athletes, man. So when you're around super athletes, either you're going to try to emulate that, or you're going to just be one of the guys that stand on the sideline hoping somebody's going to give you a chance to play. And I wasn't built like that. I was built because my Uncle Ernest and Clarence Burgess, they were from Union Heights. My uncle Clarence and Ernest were the stars at my high school. Every time I go to high school, I hear the principal telling me how good my uncles were. I knew that. Then my uncle went to South Carolina State and played ball. He balled up there. My cousins, my brothers, they all went to play football in Virginia Union and NYU. So I had a pedigree in front of me, above me, to show me the way. So when I got out there, I was balling. So if you ran, a 4.5, I'm running a 4.4. If you vertically up 30, I'm going 36. So
high level of competitive.
Yeah, that's what it was, and that was every day in my life. It didn't matter what it was. I don't know if y'all ever played half rubber. It's a game that you get a broomstick. You break your mom's broomstick off and take the broom part and throw it away.
So that's a risky game already.
Yeah, well, exactly. But it's old one. Your mama didn't already. So you take it and you sand the bottom part that's frayed.
Yeah.
So it's smooth. And you put tape on it where you can use it to swing. We get a rubber ball and we cut it in half.
Okay.
And we pitch that ball and the ball floats and curve. So when we didn't have baseball, we found a way to play half rubber. So everything in our community, we played every sport you can imagine. We ran track, but everything. We did everything, but we did everything on a high level. That's why when we got to high school, I never played JV. Never played JV. I came in high school playing varsity. Never played JV. So when you're there, you don't think anything about it until you look at the competition on the other side of you. Mm-hmm. And that's why when I got to college, the speed of Little League is different than the speed of high school. The speed of college is tremendously different than the speed of high school.
Definitely.
But we were built that way. So I started God blessed me. I started 4 years in college. 4 years.
That's up. So I see you got some stylish Jordan 1s on,
Yeah, man.
Got your number on there.
Yeah,
so,
that's my high school number 10.
Got you.
Yeah.
So what were some of your favorite kicks coming up?
Well, of course we didn't have Jordans, but they didn't even have leather sneakers back then. They had pick and pay. They had the number one sneakers to wear in the neighborhoods I grew up with were Pro Kids and Converse. The first leather sneaker I ever saw in my life was 1982 Ponies. Ponies had the white leather with the black little pony on it, and I got a pair of those. Then Adidas came up with the hard shells. And then that's when Larry Bird and Magic, because at the time, Larry Bird and Magic, they were the only ones wearing leather.
Yeah, it was killing.
That's when Converse started to put that thing out there. And man, everybody, man, we would take our leather shoes and we go buy like white shoe polish. And every time something was scraped, we would clean it off and put the white shoe polish because we wanted it to be all white.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I'm a Jordan guy. I love Jordan. I saw him when he played at University of North Carolina his freshman year against Pat Ewing, and that's when the day, because I was a Dr. J fan at the time, and when I saw this kid get in the air, and he stayed in the air longer than I've ever seen anybody else stay in the air, and I'm a long jumper. So I would go to the center, and I would take off and try to stay. And I'd get up there for a while, but I never stayed. So I watched Jordan, and Jordan would jump in the air, and everybody else would jump in the air. And when everybody started going down, he's still ascending. And I said, nobody
ain't normal.
That ain't normal. And I know my son's a Kobe Bryant and LeBron fan, and I respect those guys. I respect all athletes. But a guy like Jordan, a guy like Muhammad Ali, and a guy like Babe Ruth, they don't come around that often.
Generational.
They don't. The things that they do, you just can't emulate that stuff. And when I saw Jordan, I just followed him way before he signed with Nike. And when he signed with Nike, I said, man, listen, that's my guy. And I always kept up with him because I see a lot of me in him. I think he's about 2 or 3 years older than I am. But just the way he went out there. Jordan did exactly like that Little League coach told me. Play every game like it's your last.
You might not remember, but me and Reggie, we used to watch your Jordan tapes. That come fly with me tapes.
Yeah, because they would be back in the case.
Yeah, we used to watch those a lot. Your campaign slogan, "Win every day." Tell us about like how you came up with that and what does it mean to you?
Well, to tell you the truth, the group came up with it. We were trying to get a slogan that would really, really uplift people, get people kind of generated to believe in what we were doing. And folks said to me, Chief, man, when you go out into the communities, not all the time you go out to communities when there's a violent situation. You go out there just regular. You go out there for community events.
To get to know them.
Yeah.
Sense of comfortability.
Yeah, exactly. Painting in the park. We do uncomfortable conversations. We do shop talk in barbershops. And they said, man, every time you in there, I hear you talking to people about how they can overcome. And I told them, I said, man, because if I can overcome what I came through, man, anybody can do it, man. They can be better than me. So they were like, man, you always want to win. Every day you want to win. And I said, that's it. Every time you meet a person, and especially some young kid that you have to mentor, and you have to tell them, man, tell them your story. Tell a young kid your story, man. Tell them, hey, because these young kids think that they're the only ones going through what they're going through. But when you tell them, man, listen, man, I'm telling you, man, back in the day, this is what I did now. This is how it turned out. That's when he's going to win every day. Why? Because he can say, oh, man, you feel me. You understand what I'm going through. And when you see a young lady that has a little trouble with friends and feeling like the people are teasing her or making her feel less than a young lady, man, you tell her those times when you felt like that. Because when you do that, now she can believe that she can win every day because you believe in her enough to tell her something that's good for her. And that's what the winning every day is about. Every time you have an opportunity to spend any quality time with anybody, help them to uplift themselves, help them to find something good in themselves, teach them, well, no, I won't say teach, but tell them how important they are as an individual. That's winning every day. To me, every day you out there doing something.
That's a lot, man.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, you got anything, Drew?
How do you transpire that into the community?
Well, when being a mayor, all that I have met as Reggie Burgess has become a part of me. So when you take what I've learned, transition is not easy. You have to first of all take in consideration the audience that you're working to try to transition, trying to help them to understand what you're trying to say. Then you have to look at what is the issue that's going on. Some people may be homeless. Some people may have a job but having issues with the leaders and the managers on the job. Some people may live in a home and things are going on that they can't really comprehend and they feel left out. So whatever the situation is, you have to understand how to transition into giving them the right advice, giving them something that when you give them something, they can say, you didn't judge me. You never told me that, oh, if I did it, you can do it. Nah, all you're saying to them is, listen, maybe it may have been in 1976, but I've experienced some of the stuff that you are experiencing now. And this is how I overcame those things. Even though I may have still fallen some, I never fell back to where I was at because I had learned and I had actually said to myself that I do count, I do matter, and I want better for myself. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have people that's in your family that are going to hurt you. You have people in your friends that are going to disappoint you. You're going to have people who you are close to that are not going to step up and lead and guide you. But that person that you are, if you believe in yourself, you can find somebody that's going to bring you to a level where you can understand that, yeah, okay, I'm here now, but I know I can go on my own because I've gotten something there that I didn't have before. And that's with me as a mayor. I would want my mayor for the city of North Charleston to be able to go in any community in this city, doesn't matter what the culture is, and listen to the people there and get their feedback on what they think is best for them. I would want a mayor to feel like when you go into a challenged neighborhood, that word challenge can change into a precious, uplifting neighborhood. But what do we do to get it there? You know, if I would want my mayor to look at the mass transit situation and realize that in North Charleston, that is where the problem lies because everything comes to North Charleston. So all of the conversations should have North Charleston residents involved with the mass transit. You know, being the mayor, I would want my mayor to actually be able to say, hey, every student that go attend schools in North Charleston should be provided the same opportunities as anybody in any school is given. That's what I want my mayor. And then at the end of the day, I want my mayor to be accessible at all times. You know, I want my mayor to not only, hey, if I have to go to City Hall, there's no problem because I may want to go there. But if I call my mayor's going to say, hey, I'll meet you where you are. So, I mean, those are some of the things
That's great.
being the mayor that I'm about. I'm a people person, but I'm an educated individual. And my education has afforded me to understand that I don't have to be in one silo. I have to get up those silos, tear down those walls, and open up so everybody can have access to me and I can have access to them. That's what I'm about. You can come to me or I can come to you. It doesn't matter, but we're gonna address the problems. May not be able to solve them all, but guess what? I will listen.
Gotcha. Hey, it's leaving off on a high note right
Yeah,
there.
man,
Right there.
That's good for me.
Yeah, y'all got anything else?
No, I do have one more question. So with the cost of living in Charleston, or especially North Charleston, continue to rise, and the sense of low income housing and all of that stuff, what are some changes that you think you can to implement, such as wages, hiring wages, and things like that?
First of all, as a mayoral candidate, I need to know the AMI, average median income. In the city of North Charleston, the average median income is between $50,000 and $52,000 a year. That's the average, right? In the city of Charleston, that's in North Charleston, $52,000. In the city of Charleston, the AMI is $70,000. So that's about, $20,000 more than North Charleston. But in Mount Pleasant, the AMI is $106,000. That's what it is, $106,000. So North Charleston is the epicenter for economy. As the prices have gone up, the salaries need to go up. The businesses in our city would love to do that. The government needs to help them to actually look at a broad brush attempt to say, oh, hey, we can flourish. Our EMI can meet 70,000 like the city of Charleston. Our EMI can go to 106 like Mount Pleasant. Because if you look at those communities, right? For instance, you look at Mount Pleasant, they're 106, that's the average medium income. When have you heard about a drive-by shooting over there? When have you heard about a homicide over
I
there?
don't think I ever heard about anything.
I didn't even have even thought about that. That's a great point.
And nothing against Mount Pleasant, it's a great place, but what I'm saying is when people flourish economically,
Everything else.
everything else comes alive, and nobody's got time for any drama.
Yeah, it's not a thought.
Yeah, nobody's got time for that. So
That's a
if we
great
can
point.
work with the businesses, small and large, as a city and say, hey, we've got to start increasing these hourly wages because the cost of living has gone up. You know, that would help to actually increase the AMI in the city of North Charleston. And really, if you look at it, like in 2022, we were actually, I heard that 2 cities in the state were paying more than we were. Now, I'm a competitive person, but I'm a very thoughtful person. I'm always looking, reading, searching for things to bring to our department. So I went to the mayor and city council and said, listen, we are the most high active police department in the state. We do more uniform reports. We respond to more calls. I've got men and women that I need to treat better than I'm treating them. And we became the highest paid in 2022 because the leaders realized that we need to take care of our employees. That's what I'm saying about the city, what the city can do with the businesses. We've got to take care of the workers that's working in our city. We've got to do that. Once we are able to do that, people who looked out for at their jobs. My father said this at the paper mill. He worked 28 years there. He loved going to that paper mill. You know why? He said, because, son, I had 4 reasons why I go to that job every day. Your mama, you, your brother, and your other brother. He said, I will work hard for y'all all day. He said, not to mention, I love my job. See, if you pay people better than you paid them before.
The morale.
Yes.
Right.
Their morale goes up. They're going to work hard for you, and they're going to actually be punctual. They're going to work late.
You got a sense of
They're
pride.
yeah, sense of pride. They're going to take care of the business. I mean, I've been there. I know how it is when I got my raises at the restaurants, man. I mean, I was like, I'm in the house, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm good.
That's
Whatever you
your
need.
restaurant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's mine now. No, you become a part of it. You know, so yeah, we've got to do it, but we can do it when we actually analyze with the other businesses what's best for the businesses. And the businesses, they want to hear it, but as a government, we have to kind of work something out with them to understand that the more they do for their employees, the more the city's going to get stronger, and the more the people that's working those jobs are going to elevate.
It'll be
their
an
lives.
efficient cycle.
Yes, their lives will elevate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Leaving out on a high note, what's one of your favorite places to eat throughout North Charleston?
Oh wow! I to tell you the truth, I love all the restaurants, but you know, I grew up on Burgess.
Yep.
I mean, I grew up with them. I mean, the Grant families. I mean, I love them. I grew up with all of them. But I actually visit all the restaurants in my city. Everything about North Charleston, I'm gonna visit. Just like right now, once I leave here, I'm gonna go by to some of the I was at OG's barbershop down by I call it the projects area. You know, that's where I grew up at. That's why I called that, because this is where I grew up at. But down there off of Rivers Avenue, near Horizon Village, and I was there hanging out with them all day long. And the reason why it touched me is because I remember growing up as a little kid, it was a store, and you know that store was good, but we needed that. We need something else in our community. Here you have a store, you have a restaurant, you got a beauty supply, and you have a barbershop.
Yeah.
And I was like, that right there takes care of the community.
That's how you
You
empower
don't
your
have to,
neighborhood.
yeah, that's how you empower. You don't have to go anywhere because everything you need is right there. And I told Mr. OG that I was proud of him, man, and he's a super dude.
Got you. So Bertha is number 1 for you.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
That's
Yep,
probably
man.
that's probably my top pick too. In North
I was about to ask you.
Nah, that's-
It seems like that's a consensus around here.
That's the one right there.
So
That's the one.
just to leave off on a high note, why can people entrust you with being mayor of North Charleston?
Well, I'll say this. I served them for 34 years. I serve and protect them. I had no problem giving my life up to protect a citizen. In my profession, my perspective is unique because I've worked on the front lines with the citizens every day, every year I've been there. I worked in the various communities, and also I'm intimately involved with the daily activities of decision making in the police department and the budgetary process. Every year since I've been there, I've been involved with all those things. I take a look at the former mayors. The former mayors of North Charleston, Mayor Bowen, Mayor Conant, Mayor Summey, they were elected officials. I'm a former chief of police. I want to be the mayor. What I do have that I can share with everybody that they have is that we work full time for the citizens of North Charleston.
It's valuable.
Full time. In inclement weather, crises, any kind of situation that came before us, we were working full time for them. And I believe that all those years I worked, I never thought about it that way. I gave a tremendous amount of my life to the city of North Charleston because I wanted to do that. And I will not only do it as mayor, but I will also do it in a manner where people know that they have somebody that they not only can see, but they can touch. And that person understands them because I've lived in this city in all areas like they have. And I truly understand what it takes to run the city.
Got you. Yeah, so I want to thank you again for allowing us to be here. Great conversation. Hopefully we could do this again before the big day.
Yes.
And anybody got anything else, man?
Yeah, man.
Thoroughly enjoyed this,
thanks.
man.
Just like Mike said, man, thanks for allowing us to come in your headquarters and, have this conversation with you. I have conversations with you all the time, but, just to do it for the camera so people can see you, in a different light. That's important. Special. So, from us to you, just like once again, thank you. So
thank you. I mean, you guys, your platform is tremendous.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Really appreciate it.
You guys are y'all are forward thinkers, and the questions you ask me, or some of the things that you want me to talk about, I normally don't get those type questions. It's always about that one thing, crime. Crime matters now, but other things matter as well. And thank you all for being well-rounded in your questions.
You're welcome.
No problem, man.
Respect.
All right, so we're gonna get up out of here, man. Once again, man, if you hear anything that gets you in your feelings, always remember
we're just some messengers.
We out.